Hey pretties, it's Allison with Get Your Pretty On, and thank you guys so much for joining me for my first ever live coffee chat that I did yesterday. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to do another one today, but we had so much good discussion around that one, and I wanted to do a follow-up video for you today that came out of that one. And if you missed yesterday's, I'll just quickly summarize it for you. So I was talking about falling into a rut and what my warning signs are whenever I'm starting to get into a rut. For those of you who don't know the GYPO story, I started Get Your Pretty On when I was in the biggest rut of my life. I had stopped basically taking care of myself. I wasn't getting dressed on a daily basis, wasn't putting on makeup or fixing my hair. And my appearance was only a part of the rut. There were a lot of other things that were going on at the same time. I stopped eating healthy, I stopped exercising, and it was just kind of the snowball effect of things that happened that got me into this place where I just knew something had to change. And ever since getting into that rut 6 years ago, I have had struggles, started getting into ruts again, have had miniature versions of that happen, but just being aware of the warning signs and what is happening for me, just being aware of that has helped me stay out of it and not get into a rut that deep again. So yesterday I showed you the rotting fruit in my fridge. Rotting fruit is a sign for me. It's one of my signals because I know that I'm not eating my produce, and that's not healthy. So anyway, a lively discussion came out of this video yesterday in the private Facebook group, and some of the women in there were talking about their own warning signs and the things that start to happen whenever they start to fall into a rut, which I'm going to share some of this with you because maybe you'll recognize something in here that is a trigger for you or a warning sign or a red flag. I'm also going to talk to you today about something I call my do good, feel good list. And, we talked yesterday about the warning signs, but when you see the warning signs, yes, that's awareness, but then you need to take action. So this list is going to be about some of the actions that you can take, actually some of the actions I personally take that help me. And then I'm going to challenge you to come up with your own list of actions. So we'll get to that in a bit. But first off, I wanted to read to you some of the red flags, warning signs that the women in our group listed off. So here are some of the things that tip them off that they're spiraling into a rut. Healthy eating and exercise were cited a lot, just like, that's one of my issues too. Others said that when dirty dishes pile up in the sink, when the laundry starts to pile up, when they stop making their bed on a daily basis. Again, many noted a lack of self-care. Some stopped doing their hair, wearing makeup, wearing a ponytail every day, stop getting dressed, stop meal prepping, drinking way too much coffee, guilty, or wearing the dog walking clothes all day. Yes, I do that too. So anyway, maybe you see some of your warning signs in there too. I know that quite a few of those are also on my list. But I want to let you know that there is power in the present moment, and just becoming aware of that is really so important. A lot of women say, well, I'll make changes tomorrow. And I used to do this too. I'd say, oh, I'm going to start eating healthy on Monday, but this weekend I'm just going to have a free for all. You know what makes me feel a lot better? If I decide to implement something right then and there. And it doesn't have to be a sweeping change. It can be just one of these things on my list that I'm sharing with you today. But just making that decision right then and there that you're going to start doing better. You don't have to wait until tomorrow. You can start right now. So this is a list of things that I know fill up my tank. And the idea for this actually came out of a sermon at our church. We love our church, Chase Oaks. And our pastor was talking about how a lot of us are caretakers or providers or parents, and we do a lot of things throughout the week that empty our tanks. And he was talking about ways that we can refill, recharge, so that we can, give our best selves to everybody around us. This is not selfish to fill up your own tank. I know you've heard the airline announcement about putting on your own oxygen mask first. We need to do that. We need to put on our oxygen masks first so we can help other people. So this list is a way that I refill myself, and it's a way that I hit the reset button. And I call it my do good, feel good list. And there's a reason for that. Because doing good is a big part of it. There are several things on here that are things that I do for others, which is kind of counterintuitive. You're saying, okay, you're a provider or you're a mom or we're doing things constantly for other people. But research does show that when we do good for other people, that it is one of the best ways to boost our own moods and our own happiness. So just keep that in mind, that doing good for others also helps you. All right, so I'm going to dive into my list. And again, this is something that I do whenever I feel the spiral of the rut coming on. I look at this list. I keep it on my phone. It's right there in my notes. And if I think of something new to add to it, I'll go ahead and type it in, but it's always accessible and it's right there. So the things on this list generally fall into 3 buckets. One of them is self-care, which is a big one. One of them is relationships, and the other one is spirituality. So I'm going to go ahead and go through these. Number 1 on my list is drink water, which I talked about yesterday. I think this is the easiest thing to implement. Like, that's the first thing that pops in my head whenever I say, oh, I'm going to start making changes. The first thing I do is grab my water cup and just go fill it up and start drinking water. I don't know why, but it just, for me, signals that I'm doing something different and I'm taking care of myself. The second thing on my list, obviously, working out. And doing yoga. I don't do yoga as much as I would like to. I get a lot of headaches and I need to stretch more, and yoga is just so good for you in so many different ways. There's tons of research behind it. And if you don't have a yoga class to go to, then go on YouTube and search for a yoga class on there. There's so many good ones. Okay, so the next few on my list fall into the spirituality realm. Go to church, pray more, and read devotions. Those things are super important. And whenever they start to go out the window, I know that I need to hit the reset button and make time for that and be intentional about it. The next thing on my list is journaling. I have kept a journal for my entire life, I think. When I was a teenager, I started writing in journals, and I've filled up more than I can count, but just, you know, being reflective and having a place to get your thoughts and feelings out is very therapeutic. So if you don't journal, I highly recommend it. Just carve out a little bit of time each day, even if it's just to talk about the things you're grateful for. I like to start every single one of my journal entries with a gratitude session and listing out every single thing that I'm grateful for in that day. And practicing gratitude is another way to increase happiness. Okay, the next thing is eating whole foods. We talked about that a lot yesterday, but when I talk about whole foods, I'm talking about the foods you find on the perimeter of the grocery store, not the processed boxed stuff that's generally in the aisles in the center. We're talking fruits and veggies and lean proteins and nuts and whole grains and all that stuff that's good for your body. So definitely eating whole foods helps to improve my mood. The next one on my list is in the relationship area, and that's call my parents. Yes, making phone calls, connecting with your family, connecting with your friends. I have call my sisters on here too. We are all 3 super busy all the time, and we don't get to connect as often as I'd like to. So calling my sisters is on the list. Next up is planning a surprise for someone. I love planning surprises for people, and this one always boosts happiness. Write a thank you note. Think of somebody who's done something kind for you, and pen them a note. It could be somebody that did something yesterday or 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. Get plenty of rest. Go to bed early. It's okay. Take care of yourself. Turn in 30 minutes earlier. Get a massage. That's one of the things I'm doing today. I find, I said earlier, I have issues with headaches. And if I'm getting massages on a regular basis, then I don't have that problem as much. But I've been getting headaches every day for the past 2 weeks, so it's time. All right, next up is plant flowers, work in the garden. I always find this very therapeutic. I love planting and just getting in the soil and dirt and seeing what grows from it is very helpful for me. Next up, plan and cook a gourmet meal. I am not a gourmet cook. I get those box services sometimes though, and they make me feel like I'm a gourmet cook. We've been doing, I think, HelloFresh lately, and there have been some great meals in there, and it makes me feel good to serve that for my family. Read an uplifting book. I am an avid reader. If you don't read, then I highly recommend it. My Kindle's full of some uplifting books, and there are a few books that I've read over and over again that I know are going to boost my mood. Listen to music. Find some music that suits your mood. There's always some therapy to be found in music. I love decorating. Decorate my house is on here. I love crafting, going to Michael's. I don't find enough time to do it, but just going and starting some kind of a craft project. Take a walk in nature. Spend time outdoors. That's always a guaranteed mood boost. And anything that challenges my comfort zone too. I find that whenever I'm stuck in a rut, doing something that makes me feel alive and scares me a little bit is always a mood booster. So that's my list of do good, feel good. And I'm going to talk about the flip side of this list for a quick minute. So in addition to things that we need to first be aware of, secondly, start doing to feel better, there's a list of things that we should stop doing or avoid. And this is going to be different for everybody. I'm going to share 2 things on my list, and maybe these resonate with you, maybe they don't, and maybe you have some other things that you can add to this list. Like, I know eating potato chips and chocolate is one of the things I should probably stop doing. I don't have that on my list right now, but those are 2 things that I need to avoid, but these are a little bit deeper than that. So the first one is sometimes I have to avoid social media whenever I'm starting to get into a funk or a rut. Because for me, social media is sometimes a rabbit hole I fall down into. I sometimes play the comparison game and go on there and say, oh my gosh, you know, like this person's getting more opportunities, or they're doing this or whatever. Comparison is the thief of joy. So true, so true. So if you need to take a break from social media, it's okay. I actually unfollowed a lot of accounts at one point in my life. I've gotten to a healthier place with it, but it's okay to stay away from that. If it's not making you feel good, then just avoid it, either for a time or forever. It's totally up to you. My team knows that I take social media breaks, which is awesome because they can step in and help out. I usually take one every time we go on vacation because I want to be present with my family, but I like to take one too between Christmas and New Year's every year, just to kind of step back from everything and be in the moment. So that's one that helps me a lot. The second thing on my stop doing and must avoid list is negativity. So when I'm not in my peak performance mentally, it's super important to stay away from negative people and situations. So they're what I like to call energy vampires. And I know all of us have them. And maybe this is something, again, that you have to avoid or have some good boundaries around for a period. Maybe it's for days, weeks, I don't know. Maybe it's something that you need to really examine and say, I don't know that I want this in my life, this situation or this person or whatever. So avoiding negativity is really important until you're in the right mental state that you can deal effectively with that. So those are my 2 main things that I do whenever I'm trying to get myself out of the rut and I need to avoid them. All right, so I have a challenge for you today. I want you to come up with your own do good, feel good list, and also your things that you should probably be avoiding right now, especially if you're falling into a rut. And you don't even have to be falling into a rut. I mean, I think that this list is great for anybody who maybe feels like they're running on empty right now, your tank's a little bit low, then have this list ready. And if you're in a good mental state right now, then that's awesome. This is the best time for you to be making the list, because then you can refer back to it if you feel like you're starting to get into a rut as well. So I would love to hear what's on your list. If you feel comfortable sharing that, then please leave me a comment and let me know. You can also join our private Facebook group at Get Your Pretty on Pretties if you prefer to discuss it in there. That's great. Also, the important thing is that we discuss it and share some ideas with each other. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in for my second coffee chat, and I hope you all have an awesome day. Thanks.